Leadership Wealth, glad that you guys are here with us today. And I've got a special guest, as always, but an extra special guest. And he doesn't even know how extra special he is to me, that is. But everything I'm sure he's been called names. I'm sure that, he's gone from every gambit in the spectrum, from famous to infamous and back to famous. Ladies and gentlemen, on today's show, Casey Combden. Casey, how are you doing today?
Great to see you, Neil. Obviously.
Glad to have you on the show. There are so many things that we're going to get into, and obviously the one that a lot of people know you famously and infamously for is the A word. We'll talk about Amway in a moment, but why don't we give people a little bit of background? The Toronto DJ who of course built himself into a millionaire. Tell us a little bit about yourself, growing up and then getting into business.
Well, I grew up in Toronto, East York area, and ended up having a passion for music. Pastor asked me how do we bring kids into the church? I said, that's easy. Have a dance. So at 13, I became a DJ in a church. Yeah. That little church dance went from 40 people to 400, to the police out in the parking lot managing thousands of people trying to get into this little dance. At 16, I ended up becoming a DJ professionally, where I joined a company. I started being booked out, high schools, weddings, etc. I graduated out of East York Collegiate, moved into Ryerson, went to radio, television arts. Thought I was going to be in the television business and the radio business, and paid for myself all the way through. And then by the time I was 25, totally burnt out, no direction, no path, had no idea where I was going. I got a phone call from a friend, said, hey, they got this illegal selling pyramid. Would you like to see it? I said, sounds good to me. And that was Amway. And I got my first mentor, 25. He was a doctor, 5 degrees, wonderful man, Dr. George Berniowski. And then from there, I went from zero to hero in 4 years. I put 25,000 people into the Amway network marketing company in 4 years. They'd never seen anything like it. I was so bleeding edge ahead of my time. I didn't even know I was doing, because when you're in the middle of something, you're doing the do. You're not focused on the results. I woke up at from 0 to 29, literally, like I said, 25,000 people downline, and the internet started. I love dropping that line. Just and the internet started.
Yes.
And,
yes.
I made my first 100,000 a month at 29. I was making 200,000 a month at 30. And at 31, I was, besides the #1 network marketer, the biggest leader and the most successful person in the network marketing world industry in Canada, and one of the top people in the world in all of network marketing. I was making $500,000 a month, and you were watching it in real time.
Yes, I was.
Sure. So,
yes. Yeah, I will. Absolutely. And
what do you even say about that? Well, what do you
that's right.
say about that?
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll tell you, and we're going to get it kicked off. What I'm going to say is he stole our money. He got us to dream, and then didn't, and he made a lot of money, but we didn't. And it was just a scam, and it was a pyramid scheme. That's what I have to say about that. There were how many people looked to you and said, or looked not to you, obviously talking to someone else, and said, you know what, they just scammed us out of our money.
I have absolute and total peace that everything you just said is not true. I've created 500 people who earned over $1 million. I've created almost 20,000 people who made 6 figures doing that industry. People who come in and quit something is like a person who buys an exercise bike and doesn't lose weight for not riding it. And, so it's really, really peaceful for me when people say, oh, it was a scam. I said, no, I think everything has its more merit and its value. The biggest issue for people is that they fail because they are entering with a failure mindset. There's always been effortless success available to everybody at any time in any industry. It requires a new person to show up.
Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously lots of people that will, start something and then quit. And oftentimes
quitters are quitting something is human.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect between, oh, I signed up in that and it didn't work for me. It's like, well, there's 1,000 things that you've tried and didn't work for you. But to demonize something as, oh, that didn't work, is to make you automatically fall into one of the 5 victims that builds the persona of human existence. You're either a victim, a villain, a pawn, a hero, or a guide. And you're either one of these 5 people. If you say, oh, I was in that and it didn't work for me, well, great. Congratulations. You've personified yourself as the victim. You could have also taken the same path. It's like, I got in that and I worked really hard at it. And though it didn't work for me, I didn't achieve the results I wanted. I was a hero knowing I was on a journey and I didn't own or possess the skills at that time to complete that journey. And so I actually chose to climb back off of that mountain and took the skills I did learn that took me up certain elevations and I applied it somewhere else. And look at how high I've climbed up this mountain. See, that's a hero, right? Victimizing and demonizing an experience makes everything, sad. And then the key for life is like, you don't want to demonize anything. Anything ever happened to you, Neil, didn't happen to you. Most importantly, you need to know what happened for you.
Yes.
Right. And if you live a life where you think it happened to you, God bless you, but you're the greatest victim I know. But if you actually understand that life is always happening, life is a school and you get to select the lessons.
So, talking about, having that victim mindset, obviously you can hear it in just about any place you go. It doesn't have to be Amway network marketing. You'll hear people talk about that in sports and all sorts of arenas where I think oftentimes someone has to compete.
Yeah. Oh, well, and one of the greatest things people used to ask me about being in the Amway business is like, who are you going to try and catch or who are you trying to beat? And I always said to everybody, I said, I absolutely never tried to beat anyone. I never really tried to be anything better than the day I was before.
Yeah.
Like, I knew that where I came from, I grew up on the Danforth, low income housing. We came from a, pretty tough area. I knew the kids. I remember when the police came to my parents' store and I was 7 years old because I'd set a garage on fire and had broken and entered. They said, he'll probably, if he lives to 18, he'll be juvie and most likely in prison. You need to move him because this child has too much aggression. And that was me. And, when your parents get that notice, they had a choice and they made tough choices. They literally had to rip up everything and take this son and move him to another location where that aggressive behavior was shunned upon in the East York community because we moved up off the Danforth into East York. And what was interesting is that you do become a product of that environment. And I remember being in a place where the people that were surrounding me weren't victims. They were peaceful with the fact that life was hard. They understood that life was a series of journeys, that when you saw a hill and you didn't own the skills to climb it, that your only other task was to own the skills. It's life. People come to you probably for real estate and hey, I want to become an agent. And they're like, blah, blah, blah. And they're talking a big stuff because they see maybe lifestyle or choices or income that a real estate agent makes. Maybe making 200K and you're in the upper 5%, the top 5%, like the upper percent, right? And they're like, oh, I want to have the lifestyle. All you do is sit around all day, Neil. Right? But it's like, and you can give them the advice that here's a mountain. Here's how you get to 200K or $250,000, whatever the number is, right? But they don't want to own the skills to learn how to do the climb. Right. I think people go through phases in their life. Like I said, there's a victim, there's a villain, there's the pawn, there's the hero, and then there's the guide. Once I climbed to the top of the network marketing world, I've netted, not gross, netted 30 million. Just stop think about that number for a second, right? So I don't really have a lot of mountains I'm trying to climb anymore. Like people come to me, oh, do you want to be the biggest of them? I'm like, well, I've been there, done that. Like I spoke in front of 82,000. Were you there at the Superdome or the Sky Dome when we did the big Amway event? No, you
yes, I was at Sky Dome. Yeah, I've got a picture of it.
30,000 people at the Sky Dome in Toronto, right? Yeah. And you can say, dang, one of the keynotes, one of the most important people on the stage was who? It was me.
Yeah, it was you.
That stage, you watched 30,000 people light up like a Christmas tree. I mean, it was just like insane. Yeah.
I actually got to, at that event, I got to cross stage because I got a pin. I can't remember what pin it was that I got, but
Can you
I
imagine
reached
how
a certain
awesome
level.
that is?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh my God,
Like,
that's incredible. Yeah, look,
pin
there
I
it is.
got.
Yeah. But I
It was
had that, to give you an idea, Neil, like I've had a diamond and an executive diamond pin on for almost 14 years, 16 years. Like I spent more time as a diamond than I did any other pin. Like I lived at the highest levels of success. I was flying around in private jets and being picked up in limousines and stayed in the finest hotels. I mean, I've had meals that cost $10,000. Like, I mean, I understood life at the highest level. And then what happens is you kind of are finished with, I've done all that. And life shifts you from a hero trying to find another mountain to climb to a guy that says, well, hey, Neil, do you want to go up that mountain? Because I've been up there like a whole bunch of times. I could guide you up there, like easily. If you're interested, just let me know. And so today, that's my journey. I'm 57. I have 6 kids. You know, I've got 3 grandkids. I got 2 stepchildren. I got 5 kids under 15. So my life is full. It's full of like deep accomplishments. Like in the Canadian landscape, not again, like, I mean, obviously America's 10 times the size of Canada, but in Canada, I've been there, done that. Like I've achieved some pretty special things. And yet today I just don't have any drive to prove it. Like I don't have any desire. And I think that there's a group of people, certainly since the pandemic, and I appreciate that you started this podcast to support people that were not aware. They were trying to get data, like, you know, please talk to me. What's going on out there? Like, and you did that. So God bless you, man, for doing that and bringing a voice and creating relationships and people connect to, and you've got a kind spirit about you. And that's a beautiful thing. I think people are sitting in one of these 5 personas. They've been a hero, they've climbed a thing, and that tends to make you older. You know, I'm 57 now. I'm not, 27. I'm not pissing vinegar. Like I'm good. You know, it's like, but it's like there's a lot of people sitting as a pond in a play, and they're confused. The pandemic's affected their career, their families, their health, mental, emotional, physical. And I created a product called the Life Map because what it did was when I took all the teachings out of Amway and I ripped the best parts out, I left the bad stuff, which you mentioned. Like I left the bad stuff out, the manipulation and the sales and the raw extrinsic motivation. And I focused on intrinsic motivation, true awareness, the human being versus the human doing, understanding that we're a being before we're doing. And I said, listen, that most people are caught chasing money at the forfeit of relationships, health, mental, emotional, physical. And now I bring a holistic approach to like, hey, here's what I was teaching the leaders that became $1 million earners. Like I mentioned earlier, it's like I've helped 500 people earn over $1 million in the networking space. And that I'm proud of. Like, like, I don't know what to do. And the thousands and tens of thousands of people that led on to hundreds of thousands of dollars of income from the business, right? I think that's a good thing. Right. But the greatest thing I hope is that now that I'm sitting here kind of in the guide phase of my life journey, it's like, well, my hope is to bring back awareness of like, here's the things I was doing at the peak of my potential. And this is what I teach now. And that's where Human Potential International came about. And I know we connected through Anthony, et cetera. And it's kind of fun because all we really want to do for people is help them have a better awareness. I have a phrase that says people would do better if they knew better.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think people wake up and say, today I'm going to be stupid. You know what I'm saying? Right. Wakes up and says, all right, today I'm going to have a shit day. I mean, I think people wake up and go, gosh, I don't know where to go. Like, has anybody got a map for me? Like, who am I supposed to be? And having questions posed causes awareness. Like, you only know what you know because that's what you know. That's the limitation. So, yeah.
It's that old saying of, if you knew, you would do, because to know and not do is not to know.
You don't know what you don't know. That's why you don't have. Because if you knew what you knew, you'd have it. Because to know and not to do is not to know.
That's right.
That's only 30 years old, buddy.
That's right.
I've been doing that since I was 25.
So we definitely want to give a shout out to Anthony Ritchie, Senior. You guys go check out his podcast. And we've had Anthony on the show, and I saw Anthony had you on the show there, and I immediately reached out because the part that I do want to share, and please, anyone that wants to say anything, first of all, what people should know is that Amway is a company that provides products and all of that kind of stuff, and then everything we created that whole distributorship and oh my goodness, SOTs and DVRs, all these things that were all training programs created around to help the distributors, right? And some of those things became what they did. But I want to,
if you think about it in today's context, Neil, what a podcast is kind of like what Neil just referred to as an SOT, standing order tape. That's how old Neil is. He was on cassette tapes, people. Let's be clear.
I tried to find one of I've still got a couple of cassette tapes down in the basement. I was trying to find them. I didn't get them.
I've got them all. I've got every one of my originals. And including the original videos.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's on my website. Yeah, so people can go watch it and see it. Yeah, nextlevelnetworker.com is my what was it? 8 years ago, my mentor said to me, Casey, if you die tomorrow, what will you have left in the world? And I said, other than money, real estate, stocks, and all that kind of junk. He says, no, what will you have left is value to the world. And I'm like, he says, you are the #1 network marketer in Canadian history. You're the #1 guy in Amway. You broke all these records and there's no data? Like there's no knowledge of that? I'm like, wow. He says, so your kids will never know what their father did. And I was like, whoa. And so I dropped 3 projects. I completely swung my attention over to the Next Level Networker. And the big shift for me was that I actually built that repository today. So it's a great repository there, and you can go there. So I can, and I'll give you an account, buddy, so you can go check it out. It's fun.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you very much. That would be great. I got to see a lot of those different events in person. Live. Yeah.
Here's the date you'll remember. The system is the secret.
The system is the secret.
It's the #1. They sold 20 million copies worldwide in umpteen languages. They didn't even I remember being in where was the big one? I think it was in either Indianapolis, and a group of Koreans came running at me. System is secret. And I'm like, what the hell? And I couldn't hear the language because they were saying it so hard and fast at me. Then finally I realized they had converted my original System is a Secret into Korean.
Right.
And then people were living and breathing their success in the Amway business with that audio. And then I met people from Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia, and Poland, who were literally holding the original cassettes, asking me to sign them. I'm like, wow, okay, like this is intense. Yeah. Sometimes, you don't realize how much we impacted the world.
Yes.
We get very myopic, right? Very self-centered. Like some of the stuff we do really touches the world. So.
Absolutely. We never realize the power of that one moment and how it can change someone's trajectory, how it can transform their life in a moment. And I loved it. You talked about being in the Danforth. I actually grew up in Scarborough, just in Tuxedo Court, a little bit of a rough area, known for at that time known for the drugs. What was across street? Ellesmere? Was that Markham and Ellesmere? Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was just saying. I know that. Yeah, so I built the nightclub, Dr. John's.
Dr. John's. Oh my goodness.
That's understand. I was in the nightclub business.
Right.
Yeah, I built Dr. John's.
So Dr. John's. I think my brother might have worked there at Dr. John's for a little bit. I ended up working at a club that opened up just further down the strip where I worked at Chi-Chi's. You might remember Chi-Chi's was at the end of the strip. Yeah. In behind there was Tuxedo Court and all of the trouble, right?
Yeah. Now I worked at the Ellesmere's O'Toole's.
Oh my goodness.
In Kennedy. Yeah. I worked at the O'Toole's and Gleaners, which was down the street from there.
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was in a smaller club. But yeah,
so anyone from Toronto, most of these landmarks.
The old.
Yeah, that's right. You got to go back because a lot of these locations aren't there anymore. No. But here's what I want to point out. At that point in time in my life, I was running those streets, and the highest level of mentorship I had at that point in time were the drug dealers that ran the area. And that's what made sense. I didn't know anyone that was colored that was in any position of authority.
It was a rough time. That was way back.
We're obviously going back
early 90s. Late 80s.
Yeah, that's right. Late
80s,
early 90s. And so at that point in time, what, I remember thinking these things. And now here's something you'll never have known, but I was actually in the midst of, I was talking with other friends that, were in the area and in the gang together. And we said, all right, it's time. We need to step up. And what that means is we're going to have to remove the people that are in power right now in the area. And I was actually, we had a guy that was coming down. He was going to be bringing some firearms and we were going to be purchasing them. And you know what we were going to be doing with them. And I was working at the Denny's. I was still making money however I was going to make money, but I wanted to make more. So that was going to be my next step. And this guy didn't show up that day. So I told the guys, I said, all right, listen, we got to find out what happened to him. You don't not show up. We'll have to deal with him when we find him. And I'll talk to you guys. I went to my shift that night. A guy named Brendan Blair, who was my sponsor, who became my sponsor, he actually talked to me and said, hey, you know what? There's this, I'd like to talk to you about a business opportunity. And I thought to myself, here's a legal business opportunity versus an illegal business opportunity. Yeah. Let's check it out. I told the guys and I said, hey, I'm going to check this out. We got to find the guy, and let me go see what this is. Because, hey, if we can do it legally, then why bother going the other route, right? There was just no opportunities that we knew of.
Sure.
And I was one of the smartest guys in the group. Sorry, guys, but you guys. And so we did it. And so I went down that road. Now, none of the other guys obviously wanted to get into that stuff, but I couldn't connect with any of those individuals. And I saw you come up on a stage one time, and I think we were at a hotel out by the airport one time. Sheridan Parkway, that's right. And you came up and you started talking, and you did your snotty-nosed kid and talking about a DJ. And I went, I don't know about the rest of these guys because I
was making more money than all of them.
I was like, but I like this guy. And he spoke in language that I spoke.
Because we were from the street. We understood.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And that made a difference in my life. And I did Amway for another few years. Mm-hmm. As I was then starting to try to make a transition out, because now I had something legal. I didn't want to do the gang thing anymore.
Right.
And I ended up almost dying in a knife fight, and made an entire change. Ended up leaving Amway at that time, left everything, realized there was a wholesale change that I needed to make. But that has sat with me for all my years, even now. I continue to.
That's got to be 30. That's got to be 30 years ago. 29 for sure.
Yeah.
29 years ago. Wow.
1997, January 22nd, something like that. That weekend was when I almost died in the knife fight. Wow. And I was like, I almost died in an operating table at Scarborough General Hospital, and then would end up making that change. But what's really important about that, and I wanted to share this with you, it's why I wanted to have you on, is that it made a difference. Forget about any of the other things, the difference that it made, because it gave me a direction to go in. Here was a guy who I could see myself in, and I started to move in that direction. And because quite frankly, I just didn't resonate with a lot of the other guys. And now I still talk to Brendan, I still talk to some of those guys, but I want to just let you know that everything else aside, that was the impact that you had in one guy's life. and the difference that makes to,
Oh.
now a real estate investor, in real estate financing, podcasting, all the father and husband. I've got 4 kids myself. And so,
wow.
So it shows you that you never know what kind of impact you can make in people's lives. And that's just one. Who knows how many tens of thousands.
It has been fun over the years. Like when I left the Amway business in 2010, due to a disagreement with the company, they were forcing me to sell product I didn't believe in. And I said, no, I won't do it. And then, so they launched a lawsuit against me. And anyways, long short of it, I left the Amway business in 2010. For the last decade, over the last, it's been 12 years, 2010, but I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me because they're like, hey, I didn't do really well in Amway, maybe a couple $1,000 or something, but they're like, you said this at this event and it meant this. And I'm like, wow. And like, so today, I moved from being the hero. There needed to be a hero. Like I had to play a role as a hero climbing a mountain that seemed impossible. Like, let's face it, making $1 million in Amway, like that just seemed like, oh my God, who can I do that? Right. And when I did it, and then I was doing it like every year, like I went from making $1 million gross to like literally netting millions of dollars a year. I peaked at 560,000 a month. I never did quite make $1 million a month. That was my goal. I never got there. But I only had one goal for $1 million a month. And it was the concept, Neil, of saying to people, if I can make $1 million a month, you can make $1 million a year. That's all. That was people say, well, why do you have that as a goal? I'm like, you want a bigger house or a bigger? I'm like, I don't know how you get a bigger. It's like, it was on 25 acres up across from Stronach's house. I mean, it was crazy. And what I realized was the motivation was, I just wish when I was younger, I went through some really tough times. I had no friends and I was isolated. My sister was my parents' only other child, and she was 6 years younger than me. So there was just like no connection at all. So, when you're 16 and your sister's 10, it's like there's not really any relations. And I was alone for most of my young adult life and always felt lonely, always felt like I was nothing. I was a nobody. I wasn't important. And I kept trying to find a way to express my value in the world. And it turned out to be the Amway business of all things. Like, it could have been a lot of things, but that was what Today, the saddest thing I miss about the Amway business was it was a cultural community of optimism and hope, seeded and weaved with moralistic and ethical values as the underpinnings of adult behavior. I mean, what it was, you knew you could take your wife to an Amway meeting and she wouldn't get hit on. You knew you could leave your children with other Amway children and everybody was safe. Like it was this, it was this unspoken code. And if a douchebag ever showed up, like he didn't last, if you know what I'm saying. It didn't fit. Guy Googling at the women is like, let me show you the door over here. Like it was just, like it just was like that. There was just a moral compass. And I think that is what people are looking for. I think today people are looking for a moral and ethical compass. It's not about religion. It's not about that. It's about morality. It's about who do I be? What's important to me? It's not like, well, I need to believe this, but that's not what Amway was. As you know, Amway was not really, it was kind of generally Christian, but like it's still inclusive. I mean, we had Jewish people, we had every kind of ethnicity. What it was it was moral fiber. It was like who we're trying to be. And I think that maybe that's what you're trying to emulate with your podcast, which is like, here's some just good principle-based, moralistic, ethical direction on here's how to direct your life. Here's how to go somewhere that causes your life to be better. And that's the magic of what this is about. And today, the reason I do what I do, and I did the interview with Anthony and of course I'm here with you, is that, my goal is to provide that community again. I think if there's anything I don't really miss, I'm not a big network marketing fan anymore. The industry changed dramatically. They introduced the binary comps. It's all about sales networking. It's social capital. It's abuse of people. I'm a consultant to the network marketing industry today. And I go in and give network marketing scores. I said, here's on a scale of 1 to 10. So a 10 looks like this, what a 1 looks like, you're a 3. And I'm like, here's how these 7 get corrected, because right now you're about to hurt a lot of people. That's my message. Network marketing companies are like, what do you mean? Oh, we're trying to help them make money. And I'm like, yeah, and there's more to life than money. So let's just get really clear on the ethical of your manipulation, extrinsically motivating them to get that new car that they really shouldn't be buying because financially they're not in the right place to support that payment. And you're doing that for whose benefit? So you can tell everybody how many BMW owners you've got in your organization. Like, so that I challenge a lot of CEOs, presidents, and executives to get morally and ethically right on here's how to build a true integrity inside of a network marketing company. So, and I'm a consultant. That's what I do today. Kind of the things that I do. But my real passion is the people. Like my real passion. Like even I look back at Amway. It's like Amway was just a necessary vehicle. We just need to have one common thing that brought us together. It's really, the product was average. The comp was horrid. Everything about Amway as a company was on a scale of 1 to 10 was a 3. It had one redeeming value is that they had the right moral compass. They were God, family, country. Said, this is what we stand for. They put the flag up and said, okay, this is who we be.
Yes.
Our product's average. Our comp is average. Everything is average, but we got this. We got that part right. And they're still the #1 company in the world at 8 billion. It's just hilarious. But it screams that life is more than money, more than all that. It screams like here's a company with terrible product, terrible comp, terrible marketing, terrible branding, terrible everything. But one redeeming big flag in the ground, over the top, ethical. It's like, oh yeah, everyone goes with that company. Like there are people. Dr. George is still an Amway distributor. Oh my God! Like I talked to him a couple of years ago. And he's just like, he says, I'll die an Amway distributor. He said because the compass is right. And I was like, oh, yeah, good point. So But that's what.
Well, absolutely. And, I think one of the very point of leadership to wealth is that people wrap up this idea of wealth strictly in the sense of money. And I really like to get to what precedes that, which is leadership, which is ownership of self and really accountability. And I think, and there's different areas that are really important to people. And obviously you can have money. And one of the things that I've realized through life is that you can have money and still be empty. You can be in great shape and still be empty. And there is something to be addressed and I love what you've already talked about in the being, right? Looking at yourself. And that comes back to the leadership component, starting with me and who I am. And so, because everything comes out of that, you can have all of those other things. And if you haven't really dealt with what's at the core, then none of those things are going to mean anything.
Yeah. Well, everywhere you go, there you are.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So let's talk. You're bringing up this great point. Okay, there's lots of money you can make, and but they had this moral compass. Now I know that for you, family has been a big thing in your life, and you can, we really want to get into the crux of failure and success, 0 to hero and maybe back again and forth. And you've been through a lot of different spaces there. You talked about, the loneliness of being a loner when you were younger. And then obviously you've gone through a lot of different things with family as well. Can you talk a little bit about what you see as wealth when it comes to family?
Okay. So first, let's identify the emotional component. Like 0 to hero to 0 to guide is what it is. And it's so there are 5 driving emotions to all behavior, which is alone, lonely, sad, hurt, and afraid. Those are at the core seat of what drives most behavior. Is you're experiencing alone, right? Which is that you are literally all alone mentally, emotionally, or you're lonely. You're craving something you can't have, or you're craving something that you're not being enough of for other people to be with you. You'll never let anyone love you more than you love yourself.
Yes.
That's why people divorce. They don't divorce because they don't want to be in relationship, they divorce because they either get one of two experiences. They either get the experience of the partner overloves them, they feel unworthy and destroy the relationship, right? Right. Or they're so unworthy, right, that the other person can't stand it. And, so everywhere you go, there you are. There's no out there. There's only in here looking out there, making stuff up.
Yeah.
Right. So I believe that there's a quote that I share all the time, which is, there's no force more powerful in your universe than the need to remain consistent with your expectation of self.
Yes.
Right.
The need to stay consistent with your expectation of self. Yes.
That begs a question. Where does expectation of self come from?
Yes.
Right. So now you go, oh, what I'm listening to, what I'm reading, who I'm associating with.
Yeah.
Henceforth, Amway, tapes, books, and functions. When people are like, oh, I drop you into a community of people who believe that they're doing the right thing, going the right way, standing for the right more values, and companies is like, the expectation of self goes bang, like it automatically jumps from I'm going to run a gang to I'm going to start my own business. Like, and you're like, oh, and your friends were like, overnight, you're like, with days and weeks, you went from being the leader of a gang trying to buy firearms to a guy that's like, I'm going to do it right. Because you moved your expectation from the gang to you took your eyes and you moved it to a different, visual, auditory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aesthetic, showing up every Tuesday night at Sharon Parkway. Like, it's like, like, oh, I get it. Like, you are who you associate with. And so when we talk about like moving ourselves, and you talked about obviously leadership and how does that impact family, it's like the biggest and most important thing is that if you haven't dealt with yourself first, you haven't dealt with the real issue. People don't have problems. They have a thinking about the problem that's wrong.
Right.
We don't have problems because the way we think about the problem is the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People ask me all the time, they say, well, I get hired to consult, they go, can you help me solve this problem? I said, no. They look at me like, well, what? I go, no, I won't help you solve the problem. Well, why not?
What did I hire you for?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Especially at my prices. So they're like, and I said, but I will help you with the thinking. I said, you don't have a problem. You have a thinking perspective that's wrong.
Yeah.
I don't fix problems. I fix thinking, and thinking fixes problems.
Yeah.
So there's something called the subjective versus the objective. Subjective is through my eyes. I'm looking at it a certain way. And the way we look at something isn't true. It's just true for us.
Yes. Yes.
A fun thing to look up, Google mind projection fallacy. One of the best.
Mind projection fallacy. Okay.
Mind projection fallacy. Just Google it for fun. What it means, Neil, is that it isn't true. It's just true for you. People are constantly shooting at other people. You should this, you should that. They're projecting out their values as they see them, but the way they see things isn't right. It's just right for them.
Yes. Yes.
William Shakespeare said 400 years ago, he said, nothing's neither good nor bad, but thinking make it so.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So we don't have a problem. We don't have a relationship problem. We don't have a problem with money. We have a thinking about relationships, thinking about money, thinking about career, thinking about health, thinking about pick a topic. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the most important thing is nothing has any meaning except the meaning we assign it.
That is assigned to it. Absolutely.
That's it. Everything else is just made up. That's why the quote I said earlier, there's no out there. There's just in here looking out there, making shit up.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember Brian Tracy saying, and I've quoted this for almost 30 years now, a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds.
Oh, wow. I remember that quote. Wow.
Yeah. And it has resonated me, right? Yeah, we're going old school with Brian Tracy, but it's resonated because I have to ask myself, and I think for those of you guys that are watching and listening right now, it's important for us to ask ourselves, what are those consistencies? What are those things that we need to be consistent with that are directing us into these we find ourselves down the familiar pathway, down the same corridor.
Yeah, I would even go another step beyond the consistency.
Yeah.
Right? Which is the consistency is what needs to be questioned.
Yes. Yes.
See, because the consistency exists because you've assigned it a meaning.
Yes. Yes.
Well, what if we challenge the meaning and the thought of it?
Yeah.
Because it's creating everything.
Yes.
Which is the problem. Right? So if we get that out of the way and we start questioning everything, there's some amazing. Do you know who Byron Katie is? Never heard
the name sounds familiar,
yeah.
but
she's an incredible soul and wonderful woman. She's been, I think she's in her mid-70s now, but she did an audio called Loving What Is like 20 years ago. And she's not everybody's cup of tea. I will say this, she's out there. Like if you're not into woo-woo, you'll find her tough to listen to. But she did do some amazing work called The Work. And it's 4 questions. And the 4 questions are, the first question is that her whole premise about the elimination of human suffering. So for example, let me just give you this quote because it may bless everybody. Suffering only exists because we argue with what is. So what is the reality, is the physical universe doesn't lie. So you suffer because a marriage is ended, or you suffer because you've lost your money, or you've suffered because you're losing a job. Suffering is an imposed condition. It's different than pain. Pain is a group of receptors on your body that are triggered because there's a break in a nerve. So you have pain.
Yeah.
Pain disappears somewhere between 3 and 5 days, they say, where the nerves find new paths and the pain. But the suffering continues because it's imposed.
Wow. You just gave me words for what I've been experiencing this year. Beginning of the year, or just over Christmas, I was having some physical pain. I was fatigued. A bunch of things were going on, some health challenges. And then I went on a 2-week water fast. And what's interesting about that is, my wife was like, that's crazy. Doesn't that bother you? And I was like, sure, there was some pain the first couple of days from not eating.
If you're not ready.
But there was no suffering in it. And I've done a lot. I've actually dropped 30 pounds since the beginning of the year. And there's been no suffering in it. Not much, because the pain effectively went away. And what I was doing it for was everything. Right. It was, I'm like, I need to get my health in line. I'm not doing well. 2 years of being in a pandemic, I put on 40 pounds, blah, 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 blah. And none of it mattered. And so I couldn't put into words, why has it been easy to go without food?
There you go.
The meaning.
Yep.
This is what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
I love it.
Yep. So that's why, like for me, so I'll complete the conversation, which is Byron Katie released something called The Work, which was to answer the issue of suffering. Yeah. And suffering only exists because we argue with what is. We look at our situation and we go, that's bad. So we've assigned the meaning, that's bad. Yeah. We can equally assign the meaning, that's good. But we don't. We like suffering. Like it's suffering then is like this badge of honor. It's like, see how much pain I'm in, like, and that ends and pushes us automatically into victimhood, right? And what's interesting about this journey is she asked 4 questions. So, it's like the first question is it true? Is it true? The second question is can you be 100% certain that it's true? And since there's no certainty in truth, it negates the first question, which is like, no, you can never be 100% certain, right? But then the next question is how does it make you feel when you think that thought? Yeah. And how would you feel if you didn't think that thought? And it's called a reversal. It's like you stop and you go, oh, like I'm my divorce is bad, or this is bad, and so-and-so this, you could make up whatever the suffering is. And I'm not negating people's suffering. What I'm saying is I'm asking people to consider a new narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Did it happen for you or did it happen to you?
Yeah.
Right. Like there's, again, it's, I'm not an uncompassionate person. I'm a person that understands that suffering exists because we argue with reality's truth.
Right.
And we don't want it to be that way. So we suffer. I don't want to not have a job. I want a job. I don't want to not have money, right? I want money, but we suffer because we don't have money, or we suffer because we don't have a job. We suffer because we don't have a relationship.
Yeah.
And the truth is that suffering is imposed because we want reality to be different.
I think it's back to what we were talking about earlier in the expectation, right? It's not in line with what we are expecting for our situation in our life.
Yes, that's right. We want our life and our circumstances to be different. Therefore, here's what's interesting. Most people feel like if they feel sad or angry, it will motivate them to change.
Yeah.
And all it does is disables them.
Can you say more about that?
Well, what happens is that instinctively, sadness, anger, different varying emotions, fear, right, grief, they create an adrenaline, right, a biological response. So we take action. I never want to feel that way again, right?
Yeah.
So there are some people, Neil, that are arsonist firefighters.
I've seen that in my life. Yes.
They see a fire.
Yep.
So they can put it out.
Yes.
Okay, that fire wasn't. You saw that fire? Watch this fire.
Yep.
A bigger fire, and then a bigger fire, then a bigger fire. And it's like, and there's just not enough fire big enough. Then they're buying gasoline and propane tanks, and it's like, what the hell? Because they don't realize that they don't need to extrinsically motivate themselves to change.
Right.
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 Right. It's you have and possess all the power to make the change without the drama and the suffering. Right.
Right. Yeah. Well,
there's a quote that goes with that, which is this. It says, suffering only exists because we argue with what is, and we only lose 100% of the time.
Wow.
Because no amount of suffering will change the truth.
Right.
Right. That's why arguing with it is like absolutely futile at every level. But it's the condition of the human experience, sadly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me ask this question because, obviously you've talked about suffering, and we were kind of going in a little bit about family and things like that, and I know that you've had some different. You've shared about how important family is, which really gets me to the question of have you seen suffering for you in your life when it comes to family? And
I think
can you speak about that?
Because I've been blessed. So I had a relationship with my first life partner, which was the primary for my Amway business. I had 3 children with her, and so I was one kind of person for those 3 children as I built my kind of empire, climbing the mountain, showing this type of stuff. I ended up remarrying after divorce much later in my career. 2005, I got married. I began another family in 2006 and 2008, and then when in 2010, when I left the Amway business in bankruptcy and not bankruptcy, in a lawsuit which led to a bankruptcy and all kinds of crazy things. I had another set of experiences, and the hardest thing for me is to realize that it's one thing to be zero to hero to zero. Like it's what everybody thinks of the hero is the guy who just has it all figured out all the time. What actually makes up a hero is the number of times they fail.
Yes.
Right? You fall down.
Yes.
You fall down 99, you get up 100.
Yes.
That's a hero, right?
Yes.
People don't want to talk about the fall down.
Yes.
They only want to have a conversation about this to get up.
Yeah.
Right. And they feel like there's this there's this part of us that's Like it's never supposed to fail, never supposed to make a mistake, not supposed to be stupid, isn't supposed to be unlogical and emotional. Like there's a part of people that picture that life is robotic. And that's not true. Life is nasty and dirty and sad and painful. It's like people think success is a line that goes from A to B. And I've never seen anything like it. Like even going for the highest levels in the Amway business and all the things I went through, it's like it all happened like at the last second or the last minute or the last hour or the last day of the last, you know, like it was like, not that we weren't pressing all the way towards it, but it was like this fate turned in that situation and, you know, bending and twisting. And it was like it was just all the time chaos. I mean, people, the same months that I qualified at the highest level in the Amway business, somebody was driving to an event in Northern Ontario, in Sudbury, Ontario, and died in a car crash driving to an Amway event. Wow. So how do you deal with that? You're on stage being celebrated, and there are people whose family are dead. Like, and what do you do with that? Now, there are 250,000 people in my network. So it was just math. At a certain point, when you've got tens of thousands of people driving across Canada, trying to get to different events, that you're going to have a road accident is the #1 way to die in Canada. You know, it's like, you know, just check out
a lot of road.
Yeah, just check out the 401 statistics. Like, no, but it's like, you know, and people are like, well, that's bad. I'm like, so because there was the potential that a family could die, I should have never helped anyone. Like there's conflicting duality in that, right? It's like, you know, we don't want that, but that's the messy part of the true movement towards success. It's that there's no linearness to this. There's no A to B. It's just, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and just try and be a little bit better. That's it. Like, and like people say, oh, I'm going to try and pass so-and-so. I'm like, well, that's a waste of your time and effort. Because you have no idea who they are. You haven't walked in their shoes. You have no idea what they've been up against, right? Like, why would you even worry about that, right? So this is the magic for me, is that I've learned that success is just the lens and narrative that you have for yourself. Right? And I can say this, today I now mentor and coach people. And I believe that the mentorship that I do with people does two things specifically.
Okay.
First thing that it does is it accelerates time. Why would someone said, well, you know, why would I have a mentor? I said, well, how old are you? And, you know, they tell me their age, whatever it is. And I've been mentoring a guy who's 35. I said, I'm 22 years older than you. I said, I can save you 22 years. Like, do you have any other questions? Like, you know, and they look at me like, oh yeah. I said, listen, here's a great question. How do you cross a minefield? Besides carefully, right? Like, how do you cross a minefield? In the footsteps of someone who made it to the other side. Yes. Like if you go halfway, there's a big hole, go back. Yeah. like, so when people say to me, what's mentorship? I said, it's simple. It's time acceleration. The second thing mentorship is, a mentor sees all the things that are good about you and all the things that are bad about you. And their #1 priority is to protect you from your enemies, which is mainly you. Yeah. At the end of the day, the only person who's going to beat you really is you. That's right. There's no out there. There's just inside your head, making shit up, saying this, saying that, putting perspective on this, putting perspective on that. You're constantly second guess. It's like, why? Why would you try and use your own brain to analyze your own dysfunction? Albert Einstein said the significant problems we face in life can't be solved at the same level of thinking we're at when we created the problem. Yes. Henceforth, the idiot is the person who thinks they can solve their own problem. Right. Hence the need for mentorship. Yeah. There's 3 denominations. There's trainer, coach, and mentor. Yeah. Trainer is transfer of skills. Yeah. Give me a skill set. I know that my student's successful when they could replicate the trainer's exact replica. And they get a check mark because that's just skills transfer. Coaching is action, feedback, correction, action. Action, feedback, correction, action. Action. Because a coach is trying to take someone from A to B by giving them path and direction. constantly correcting and supporting them in that direction,
Yeah.
right? Mentorship is philosophical dissertation about the way they think about your problem. I'll never tell you what to do. I'll tell you how I think about what you should do. And then you can choose to go do it wrong, so we can both come back and look at how you did it wrong. Or you can just take my advice. Save yourself a hell of a lot of time.
Right.
Practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice.
Practice.
It's perfect.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So.
Wow. Okay. Well, Casey, we've kind of run up on time, but I want to know what
my next call is calling me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just going to say, what's next, and how can people get a hold of you?
Well, I'm offering up the gift of my intellectual property in the form of something called the Human Potential Life Map. And it's the ultimate life map on helping people see the world through a new lens. And I'm kind of gifting it away because if people I think people would do better if they knew better.
Yeah. And
it's like, for me, I just wish people knew what I knew, because I've been through so much pain, Neil. Like you have, I show a very good game face on podcasts or whatever you guys need me to do. Yeah. And there's one side of me that's deeply instilled with joy and gratitude to the life that I've lived.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it takes seconds to bring a tear to my eye in the pain I've experienced. Because you have to understand, 250,000 people watched me climb a mountain. That meant 249,999 people who want to shoot him. Do you know what it's like to live with that? The target on my back for 30 years. Yeah. People are really happy that I've been through a lot of pain. Like, I always knew here's all that, but now it's like, really? Wow. See, you don't need, if you haven't done much with your life, you never have a target.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pawn in the play, right?
Yeah.
He's not a victim, he's not a villain, he's not a hero, he's not a guide, just a pawn. He's sitting there. And that's the guy, armchair quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like the people like us that have been in the game, like blood, sweat, and tears. Like I've had it all, lost it all. Divorce, bankruptcy, diagnosed with PTSD. Like I lost everything. And then I was in a motorcycle accident, broke my collarbone in 4 places. I broke my body, broke my life, had to go through another, like just horrid things that people barely could survive in a lifetime. I've gone through 4 different times in multiple lifetimes. So today, I'm just a guy that's been through one heck of a lot of stuff. That's like, if I can help you miss a few of those mines, like that's probably, I'm here as the guide now. I'm no longer, I don't have any mountains to climb. Like,
so how do people get, you're talking about the human potential.
Well, how do people humanpotential.com, humanpotentialinternational.com. I wanted to build a worldwide organization because I'm also a British citizen as well as Canadian. And and I also have a US as well. So I've always seen myself international. I've always seen myself as a person who believes, even though I grew up in Toronto in Canada, I felt like I wanted to touch the world as a Canadian citizen. I could touch the world. You can go to Human Potential International. There's some free stuff there. And my biggest thing is like, if I can just make a difference, just give me a call. Like, you'll see, you can email me or whatever. It's I don't look for clients. People know if I'm right or not. I don't advertise. I don't do any of that stuff. Some people have asked me to write a book because they feel like there could be a lot in that book that could, people could see a nugget or two.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking as you just shared a whole lot in a little bit right there at the end. I was like, there are lessons there that we should talk about at another time, where you can actually talk about how to come back, because that art of the comeback, is.
Yeah. I'm not sure I could finish the chapter just yet because I'm still in the middle of it, but it's like that. I will give you the Coles note, which is, it's the day you realize you're never going to be the hero anymore. Yeah. That's the art of the comeback.
Oh, we're going to stop it right there. Oh my goodness. But that is brilliant. And I want to ask more about that, because that is a mic drop. It's the day
You
that
realize
you realize you're never going to be a hero anymore.
it's not your path. It's okay.
Wow. Casey, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure, buddy. Really.
Thank you. Guys, you're going to have to wait till we get Casey on again. And till then, you guys have a great day. This is Leadership to Wealth. And, this is your host. Take care.